You're listening to Spark TV, where we bring you daily interviews with real women in business at all stages. I'm your host, Damia Lewis, and I am so grateful to have you here. So good, Damia. Welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
I'm so excited to hit record on this conversation because otherwise you and I are going to talk all day.
Yes, this gives us a framework and a limited time to speak.
That's exactly right. I love it so much. Let's kick things off by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'm Damia. I just go by my first name, like Madonna or Rihanna. So Damia from Straight Up. I founded Straight Up 14 years ago as a sole trader. I was really wanting to work from home and get into my love, which is communicating science and working with researchers across many different fields of science. So I am a scientist by trade. I studied science at university, but I get bored easily. And with science, if you're going to be a scientist, you really have to specialize in something. And I just thought, I can't specialize in anything, I'll die of boredom. So I kind of worked for government for a while and just, sniffed around where can I take this? And I fell in love with communications and marketing for scientists. Now, when all this was happening, like 20 years ago, the idea of science communication or the science communication industry was already starting, and there were some agencies that were specialising in that. But I found a niche, and I went back to uni and did an MBA and scoped all this out as part of my MBA. I found a niche in that we communicate science and now all forms of research for their target audiences, which are not generally the public or the media. It's things like companies that they want to work with to develop their innovations. It's funding providers, so the assessors of grant schemes. It's other researchers. They often want to collaborate with other researchers. So their target audiences of our clients are not the general public. It's those specific audience types.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I mean, it's fascinating because you think about, so I'm a sales and marketing person by trade. So it interests me that you say, you found a niche figuring out the scientists and researchers and academics target audience was not the general public. Because when I think about sales and marketing from a business point of view or a brand point of view, that's quite often what we do, as we go, who is the person that you're speaking to? So it's
The
very
first question,
interesting.
right?
Yeah, totally. And so it's so interesting that that wasn't really a thing in the scientific world.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know. And I guess
Yeah.
researchers are really good at what they do. But, and I find this happens even with us marketing people. We get so into our discipline that we sort of
Mm,
can't see ourselves anymore. We can't see the perspective of others. And that's what
yeah.
happens with scientists. They get so into their work, they think it's the most important thing ever. And rightly so. I'm glad they feel that way. But they lose perspective on how others see them and what's in it for them, you know? That's
Yeah. And I mean, that's even interesting. I find that for business owners as well, right? Like
yeah.
everyone just like you just get so involved in what it is that you're doing and your mission. And yes, you're right, rightly so. We all should be so passionate about what we do. But sometimes, ask them what they do and they will talk at you for 10 minutes and you're like, still don't even understand what you're doing, but they're just so like into their thing. You
Yeah.
really need to be able to distill your message and what problem you solve to your target audience.
That's exactly right. And so our target audiences, for example, and this will help other business owners watching today, our target audience, we have developed our key messages for researchers, scientists, innovators. So we work with tech companies as well. So someone who's not our target audience probably wouldn't respond to our messages and our copy and our,
Mm,
our marketing messages. So yeah, my advice to other business owners is to really understand who it is that you're selling to or partnering with, or who your suppliers are, even if you're trying to get a good deal with suppliers, and what do they want, and try to find a position where you're getting what you need to get done, but they're getting something out of it as well. And you can only do that by understanding who they are and what they're trying to do.
This is so great. I always talk to like the people I need in my life on these podcasts. And I was just, before we hit record, I was saying where I'm just working on the next evolution of Spark, and I will be writing the new landing pages this weekend. And so now you have in my head, okay, no, I need to think about this from my audience's perspective and what's in it for them and what do they
Yep,
get out of it. So I'm
yep.
so glad we like literally had that sidebar. Now you've given me
Very
a good like
timely.
mindset.
Yeah, good. Excellent.
Oh,
Awesome.
how funny.
Yeah,
Now, 14 years, that's a long
yeah.
time to be
I
running your
know.
business. Oh my God.
Yes. So I was having kids during that time, so it gave me the flexibility to work on and off and to only work from home. Kids are growing up.
Hmm.
So just recently, so in the just going back just 5 years ago, I was still a sole trader. I was using subcontractors or bringing subcontractors in as I needed them when I had more work on. But then I reached this tipping point where I always needed other people.
Mm.
And the other tipping point was my kids getting old enough to be in school and want to hang out with their friends rather than me. And, there's an interesting point where that happens. And so that freed me up to turn straight up into a company, which we did 6 months ago. So in a way,
Wow.
we're new because we restructured, and many of the subbies I was working with are now employees of Straight Up as the
Oh my
company.
God. Congratulations.
Mm.
It's a cool business milestone.
It's
What's it
very
been?
cool.
What's it been like? How has it felt moving people from contracting positions to full-time positions? That always freaks me
Personal.
out.
Yeah, yeah. Look, on a personal level, I feel awesome about it because
Mm.
I'm supporting, it's mainly women, mainly mothers, not all. I've got one guy and someone without kids. Um, but yeah, they are women who are highly qualified, have been in the workforce before and have either fallen out of it or just not liking it, not
Mm.
liking having to go into the office and work that 8 hour day and not be totally aligned with the vision of who they're working for, that sort of thing. So I
Mm.
love, it's really personally rewarding to be employing people who can juggle their family commitments or their personal goals. Some of them have their own personal goals. They want to start their own business one day. And so they just need something that they can do on the side. So we've got a couple of part-timers who are like that. And so, yeah, that's very rewarding. From on a business perspective, like as a business leader, it's scary because I have to pay them first every 2 weeks and I have to pay their super. With
Yes.
contractors, you can negotiate it and it's on and off, it's stop and start. It's like, well, just do this one piece of work and then see what happens next. Whereas with
Yes.
employees, I'm committed to um, paying them. The paying bit is the thing that worries me the most because of any business owner will know this cash flow. Sometimes cash flow, sometimes it all comes in at once. Sometimes clients just don't pay for a few months. So that's a juggle.
Isn't it funny? I remember the first time a client didn't pay on time. I was like, what is this? And you're like, nobody tells you that sometimes clients just don't pay their invoices, but you still have to pay your team. It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
you still have to pay your team. So, and you can't be late with that. That's the
no,
first thing that I need to pay every fortnight. So, and rightly so, yet again,
yep,
it's rightly so.
yeah.
The It's just yeah, it does
Have,
cause me to stay up sometimes thinking about it and just wondering how I'm going to make that next pay run. Yeah.
oh, totally. I totally get that. Have you found any strategies that have helped prepare for that fortnightly
Yes, the best thing that I
thing?
can do is keep a buffer in my bank
Mm,
account. Um, yeah, that is the way to do it. Just make sure you have
mm,
a buffer. For me, it's $20,000. I need to have that there. That would
yep.
cover 2 pay runs, and it just gives me certainty.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I know, some people who employ like the profit first method, like have all these bank accounts. And
Yeah,
I'm like way too not into admin to have 5 bank accounts. But I probably would do more of what you're talking about in the terms of like knowing, okay, that's the number I need. That's my safety net. So if kind of things, people pay late or, we lose a customer or something like that, I've got that buffer there. So I've got plenty of runway to plan for changes.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting mindset shift, isn't it? Moving from, you know, sole trader where or with contractors or say a VA where you've got invoices to pay, absolutely. And you're kind of the person that okay, I'm not advocating to pay late, but the world doesn't end if you do, versus when you do move to a payroll system where it's like that is actually like live and die. That is the first thing that has to happen. And
Yeah.
I found too, so I scaled my other business Scrunch, which I'm now exited, to about 20 people. And I found myself going, I feel like I'm working for all of these people now. Like rather than when I was in that kind of sole
So
trader
true.
environment where I was like, it's all me and whatever, whatever. Yeah, it was a really interesting mindset shift.
Is a change, isn't it? And
Mm,
coupled with that, I'm thinking more and more about how to make Straight Up a great place to work for them. I'm thinking way
yes.
more about culture.
Mm,
Whereas as a sole trader, yes, there was a little bit of that. We're doing good things here and we're helping scientists solve world issues and all that. That side of it is really cool. But
yeah.
now there's this internal working culture of mental health and opportunities for professional development and
Mm,
some people some of my employees love owning project and really taking the lead on it, whereas others would rather be part of the team and not leading and making
mm.
sure, everyone's is happy with what they've got. Yeah.
So how are you then juggling the fact that your job has just increased a millionfold? You know,
Yeah.
you've gone from I've got to potentially win work and we deliver that work to now that kind of company structure where it is, so many different things that you've got to think about. Like, how are you juggling that?
Personally, I love it because it suits my personality of avoiding boredom at all costs. I just really avoid it. I don't mind stress, but I just cannot handle boredom. I end
Yeah.
up start thinking about, what else can I do and procrastinate. So it suits me. I I do less of the client work now, and I miss
Mm,
that. And I'm looking at ways in which I can do more of that, and that is by bringing on a my other full timer is now responsible for managing staff or, being that first point of contact for staff.
mm,
So that has freed me up quite a bit to do the stuff that I really love doing with clients is facilitating workshops and coaching groups of scientists and that really transformational stuff I love. So it
yeah.
frees me up to do that
I
in
love
person.
that. I think it's really important to remember why you started and what you
Oh,
actually love doing and what brings you joy in the business. I mean, it's fabulous to scale, to hit these milestones, but if you find yourself a little bit like, oh, I don't get to do the stuff I like anymore, then sometimes it loses its sparkle a little bit.
it does speak. Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to avoid that and that was a way to do it by having an offsider who can take
Mm,
their management responsibilities. But for other business owners, it may be other things that they want to offload. Maybe it's the business development. I like the business development as well. I find that
yes.
exciting. And again, it suits my personality. But others may not love that. And then you can bring someone in who is good at that.
Yeah, and I love that about business, running your own business, is that we can actually be super intentional about what our role actually looks like. I was having a chat to another woman in business, and she was getting advice that if her company was to grow, she had to stop doing delivery and just be all in on sales. And she was like, "Oh, but that's the bit I like," and she was really down about the fact that someone had given her that advice. But I do love that it's like, actually, it's totally within your control. Like we
Yeah.
get to structure our businesses so that we can, yes, don't get me wrong, we're always going to do stuff we don't want to do.
Yeah.
But we get to structure it so that we can squeeze some of the joy back in there.
Yeah, you can really think about, well, what are the bits that I love and add value to? And you don't
Mm.
have to outsource them. There's no rules for that. It's, yeah, you decide. I love that too about
Oh, that is
business. Yeah.
so good. So, over the last 14 years, what do you think some of the bigger challenges have been for you in business?
So for a long time, it was the subcontractor model, using subcontractors for several years. It uh, That was really challenging because the nature of our business is we're very deadline driven.
Mm,
Most of our deadlines are not deadlines that we've created. They're grant. So we do a lot of grant writing for researchers and for innovators. So they're the bigger grants, like Cooperative Research Centre projects, like ARC, the Australian Research Council, which, there's billions of dollars a year available to university researchers and to innovators in industry. So,
mm.
um, yeah, innovation companies. And so we, what's my train of thought?
Oh, challenges over
Challenges,
the
yes,
deadlines, subcontractors.
deadlines. So I'll bring in a subcontractor for a certain amount of money, which usually equates to a certain number of hours. But a
Mm,
lot of these bigger, more complex grants, usually sometimes there's 3 or 4 universities on them and all the admin that requires. And then
mm,
there'll be 3 or 4 companies. And so we need to get everybody agreeing to what is the grant going to be for, what sort of technology you're going to develop, how much you're going to develop it, where are you going to do it, what equipment do you need, what do we need to buy, what could we hire, what are the researchers going to do? So we'll split it into research programs. I'm simplifying it here, but the actual nuts and bolts of doing that is really complicated. And it's really
yeah.
hard to determine how many hours it's going to take. If researchers have gone for these sorts of complex grants before, they're usually easier to work with because they know what's expected of them. But younger researchers or those who just haven't done it as much, then that requires more of our time. But I've charged a package price, or I've quoted a package price to the client, which means we'll get it done no matter how long it takes us, but only a certain number of hours with the subcontractor. So if the
Mm.
subcontractor runs out of hours, that's it, they stop, and I have to do weekends, nights, early mornings, whatever to get it done. I found that really challenging. There were times where I worked 25 days in a row,
Oh my God.
full time every day because the buck stopped with me. Whereas
Yeah.
when you have employees, you decide they're there 40 hours a week or 38, 19 hours for the part timers. Um, and they work on what is most important. And if that is getting a grant over the deadline, then we pull out all stops to do that. So it's lightened that load for me, and I have my weekends back. Mostly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mostly, yeah. Which you then fill because you get bored. Oh, I love it.
Yes.
It is really interesting, isn't it? I find so people has been my biggest challenge in business. And, I think that I was under the illusion when I first started that people would be as excited and as passionate as I am.
Yes.
I know that was a hard pill to swallow. But you're so right. Like we live in a world where, not everybody wants to run a business. This is a thing that we have decided that we want in our life, and we want to fill our life with the excitement slash stress of, building this thing. And it's just not everyone's cup of tea. There are plenty of people that want to commit to hours or commit to a 9 to 5 or whatever the structure is. And we really have to be respectful of that as much
We
as we can.
do. We do. It's our choice to live the crazy life that we do. And I wouldn't have it any other way, but plenty of people would. And so, yeah, I definitely want to respect that. We are really big on diversity in our workplace. And that's not just diversity in the traditional sense of, any sex, culture, background, whatever, but also in terms of diversity of how we want to work. And so
Mm,
we operate a totally flexible workplace. So people work when they want, where they want. yes, the full-time is full-timer and the part-time is part-time, but if they want to do less, there's no restriction on how much time without leave they can take,
Mm.
without paid leave. So if they've used up their paid leave, they can take as much extra time as they want. There's no minimums on that. So I am really attuned to that and respectful of it.
Yeah. But yes, and which is amazing, but it does present a challenge for you as a leader to balance all of that whilst balancing deadlines and client delivery.
It does.
Mm.
And yes, it does. I'm really lucky to have a team who really does care about their work. They
Yeah.
do care about their work and they will think really hard about grant deadlines and making sure they're there, they're showing up for those big projects. I haven't had anyone leave me in the lurch at all.
That's so
You know,
good.
yeah.
Have you got any tips on finding those incredible people? Have you gone about this in a specific way?
It's a really good question because that is another challenge that I had in especially the first 10 years of the business. I kind of gave work to anyone who asked for it
Mm,
and thinking, oh, cool, let's work together. And then realizing that while I loved them, they weren't always the best fit. And and then I realized, hey, I actually need to be selective about who I hire. It's not just anyone who comes up and asks for it. There's certain skill sets and not just skill sets, not just about skills because they can be taught, the skills.
mm,
It's
mm,
about really high level of emotional intelligence so that they get along with the clients and understand what the clients are saying, what they need, and being able to pivot quickly in stressful times, which deadlines can be very stressful. So a high level of emotional intelligence, high level of word, not organizational skills, it's wanting to show up. Like,
mm,
they want to be their best. So I look for that in a person now that I'm looking at hiring, or are they the sort of person that wants to, they'll volunteer for the hard things because they
mm.
want to help out. So I look for that quality. Yes, I do want someone with a science background because that's our model. We're scientists who have retrained in marketing and communications and business. But I want those other things as well. I need those other things.
I love that. That's again a lesson that I learned as well, but those people really do exist. It's just you do have to be super intentional about finding them.
Yeah, so I didn't answer your question about that. It's we don't advertise for our roles. I don't
Mm.
think we've got big enough for that yet. It's only
Yep.
been 6 months. Maybe when one of our staff leaves, we'll need to fill it with advertising. It's all been ex subcontractors. We've had one new person, but it's all been through our networks. So people
Yes.
we've worked with before or know of who's been recommended to us. Um, so far, that's the only way I've hired people.
Mm.
uh,
Yeah, and I think that there's actually a lot of merit in those referrals. I mean, I've always found it interesting advertising a role on Seek and then calling someone's references. And it's like, of course, they're going to give them good references. They wouldn't put them down if it wasn't a good reference.
Exactly right.
So I actually love and I prefer that model of sometimes I will actually, even if I don't want someone in a contract position, do a contract first for a project to see what they're like, because
Yeah,
it's like, I want to pay you for your work, but I need to see what you're actually going to be like when you show up on day one.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Mm,
So I'll do that in future because mine are nearly all subbies,
mm,
ex-subbies. I've worked with them all before and they're a known. Although I say that they're you know, a known. But people had said to me, a couple of people, including someone I had as a business coach last year, said to me, just watch out when you turn them into employees. Some people will change how they work. They might not be as, attuned to deadlines and wanting to get things done as they were when they had to invoice only
yeah,
once their work was complete. Yeah.
that is so interesting, isn't it? Because I
Yeah.
guess if you're a contractor, you do have to be hungry for the hours, don't you?
exactly. And you want to do good work because you may not be hired for the next job. So
Yeah.
their experience, this business coach's experience, was that that can change and the
Mm.
employers can be a little bit more, relaxed. But I haven't found that because, as I said, I'm really lucky that I've found that I've got this amazing team around me. In future, that may be an issue. I will keep an eye out for it.
No, I love it. I love it. It's good. It's good to talk about these things because I think we all uh experience some level of like the same issues and challenges, and it's always interesting to get people's insights on maybe little things that they do that can kind of help other people not
Yeah, for
experience
sure.
those challenges.
Yeah.
Now, I'm super curious. We, through this conversation and before we hit record, we were talking about how, we will fill our time because we are avoiding the boredom and we love a little stress in our lives. And we're obviously crazy because we're business owners. I'm curious. And also, you're obviously, have a family, you're a mum as well. So you've, got that on your plate. I'm curious to know where you're at in terms of, do you ever prioritize rest, self-care, or do you just thrive on the pressure?
Oh, that is such a good question. I definitely do better if I rest, but I find it hard to rest.
Mm,
I find it really hard to switch off sometimes. That is something that I have not solved, work-life balance.
same.
Yeah. Because even if I force myself to rest, I can't stop my brain. I might be able to,
Mm,
you know, look at something else for a while or hang out with a friend or watch something on Netflix, and that takes my mind off it for a while. But then I'll
yeah.
turn that off, or I'll leave the brunch with my friend, and then bang, this work commitment will suddenly hit me and terrify me for a moment. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll get that rest in and then I'll be like panic for a moment. Um, I have not worked out how to avoid that. I don't know even if I should stop it. Maybe that's my body saying you need to keep fine tuning what you're doing. You're not quite there yet. So maybe I should hear it. Maybe I should just go, oh, this is happening to me more these days. Maybe I need to book in a holiday or
Mm.
turn down the next contract or something. I say that, but I'll never turn something down.
You know, me either.
We're talking about.
I know. I know. The only thing I like though that you say like you almost dip into rest, right? Like you'll have the brunch or you'll watch the movie or you'll do it. I've kind of because I
Do you
flip
do
flop.
that?
Yeah, so I've coined it micro rest.
Oh, right.
So
I love
I
that.
just because I actually think and I know that we kind of went through this period, so those of us who have been in business for over a decade, we would have seen hustle culture and then it went to this rest like soft vibe culture, which I never vibed with because I'm just a crazy stressful person all the time, to now this like and I guess for me it's been like what is right for me more
Yeah, right.
more than I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah,
And I
right.
think because I also get bored like at the drop of a hat. Like, I was telling you, if I'm walking on the treadmill, I have not only do I have something on the TV, but I also have a desk set up so I can like do like cold outreach emails or something while I'm doing that. I have to have three things going at once or I just like lose my mind with boredom.
Love it. I love
Uh,
it, and I can relate. Yeah.
So, but I also do get that, what'll happen is I'll, once every 6 weeks, I'll have a bit of a mental breakdown and I'm like, oh, I need to actually rest this weekend. I need to get bored. I do need to lie in bed for the morning and, have a cup of coffee and breakfast in bed or, you know,
Yeah,
intentionally not do anything.
absolutely. Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
get those little mental kind of, okay, I need to shut down for a bit. This is,
yes.
yeah, it's just not working. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I can't get on board with I finish work at 4 o'clock on a Friday and don't think
Nah,
I just can't get on board with that.
no, no, me neither.
Oh,
No.
oh,
And
I
that's
love it.
okay. I'm okay with,
Totally. Oh my
yeah,
God, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're
We're
fine.
good.
We've got
We
it
got it
together.
sorted.
We're great.
But
Oh,
that
so
we
good.
do raise a really important point there that we haven't mastered it. It's been over 10 years for
Mm,
us. and we're still working out, we're still, I call it calibrating. Every day we're
Yes.
recalibrating. So some days we're in a dip, other days we're on a high, but we're always trying to find that middle spot, and we probably never will, and that's okay. We'll go past it, we'll cross lines, we'll whatever. But there is no destination. I don't think. It is just the journey, and listen to yourself and allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to have those moments where you feel like you're a fraud. And then as long as you get out of it later and go, oh, that's so funny, like that I had this imposter moment. I had it the other day where I felt like an imposter for a morning. And
Yeah.
I spoke to one of my colleagues about it. She's like, it's so funny how we do that every now and again, because today I feel completely capable and high impact again. So it's funny. It's funny in terms of bizarre to watch those different mental states and be okay with them, sit with them. It's okay.
And I do love that you said watch them. So that's something that I've learned as well, is to, rather than be in it, is to observe it. And that's, I
Yes.
feel like, has really helped me in the especially in the down days,
Yeah.
going, oh, isn't that really interesting how yesterday, yeah, I was on top of the world, I made
Yeah.
sales, I was doing it, and today I feel like I want to quit and it's all
Yeah.
not worth
Yeah.
it and whatever. Like I've found that just trying to get it, like observe it rather than feeling the feelings as much, has helped get out of it faster.
Just even the language you use then,
Mm.
you, you sort of spoke about yourself as if you had two voices. Like one voice is like the angel on your shoulder saying, isn't it funny how you're stressing today and you're feeling blah, blah, blah. It's like I is talking to you, but you're the same person. That kind of self-talk is really cool, because the I in that case can be the one that goes, that brings a rational thinking to it. Everybody
Yeah.
does this. It's totally normal, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah. And I also, the one I love as well is I can do it anyway. So I get that you feel like shit today, but we can still send this proposal, and
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
still
that's a good
send
one.
these emails, we can still do the podcast recording, we can still do that. Because I also find that if I say that to myself, do the thing, that also helps get me out of the state, because then I've like had a little win.
I'm going to use that.
Hmm.
Love that. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to steal that if that's okay.
Oh my God, please. Oh my God, I could talk to you all day, but I always like to wrap up these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So, reflecting on your time in business, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her business journey?
Okay, I'm going to go back to what we started with, which is intentionality.
Mm,
We spoke about it in terms of us working with our clients to be intentional with who they're communicating to, but you can apply this to just about anything in business. I find it doesn't work okay, let me start again. Some business owners don't like the business planning or strategic side of it, which I get. It can be boring. And when you look at something that you've written, so you write a plan for 6 months from now, you look back 6 months later. Personally, I love how you find that you've achieved a lot of what you said you would. But
mm,
then there'll be some aspects of it that were wrong, that you're like, I'm going to put that down. That doesn't make any sense. It didn't, I don't know what I was thinking back then. So some people think it's a waste of time because you end up changing it 6 months from now. But this is how I look at it. If you don't know what your end goal is, then how do you know what the first few right steps are?
mm.
You know what I mean? Like, I find it really important to be intentional about what your first few steps are. You can pivot later, you can change the goals later, you can perpetually change them. And I actually think you should, because we live in an environment that is changing that we don't have control over. So you need to be pivoting and changing and growing. But intentionality allows you to work out what the first few steps should be. And without that, then you could be scattering your efforts just about anywhere. So that's a fairly general piece of advice. But if we bring it down to marketing, so let's be intentional about who you're marketing to. really understand them. So you can't just say women aged 30 to 50. It won't be all women aged 30 to 50. There'll be specific traits about that group that you're aiming for. So really, like, where do they shop? What TV shows do they watch? Do they have kids? Do some of them have kids? Some don't. Do they, what parts of Australia do they live in? Are they in regions? There's lots of different questions that you can ask to really build a good picture of your key target audiences and then be intentional about how you sell yourself to them.
Oh, I love it so much. And I just think it's, so fascinating. I couldn't agree with you more about like having that direction, that North Star, and, that intentionality that helps you take those first steps, because you're spot on. The plan always changes.
It does.
But if you're not pointed in the right direction, you're guaranteed not to get to where you want to go.
Exactly. That's right.
Oh my
That's
God.
yeah.
Damia, you are absolutely incredible. Thank you
Me
so
too.
much. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom with the Spark community. That was absolutely incredible.
That was fun. Thanks heaps for having me.
That wraps another episode of Spark TV. Shout out to Spark TV sponsor IP Australia for their amazing support of the Spark podcast and women in business. And if no one tells you today, you've got this.